In the southern part of the city of Buenos Aires is the Autodromo Juan y Oscar Galvez, one of the cradles of Latin American motorsport. Today, it's the host venue of the first round of Season 10 of the Race Department Touring Car Championship. It's a big season for the RDTCC, with Oscar Hardwick as the series defending champion. But the biggest change comes in the cars themselves. You step up from the front-wheel drive touring cars that you've been used to seeing to the mighty Super V8s, made famous in Australian motorsport. Hi everyone, welcome to today's broadcast of the Race Department Touring Car Championship presented by Thrustmaster. I'm RJ O'Connell, joined by driver analyst Lorenzo Bonder. We have Brian Hengeveld directing our broadcast today, and we'll have lots of stuff to talk about throughout our broadcast, where we feature a 20-minute qualifying session and a 60-minute feature race to determine the winner of the first round of this great championship. And also, we'll have details on how you, the viewers watching around the world on twitch.tv/Race Department or wherever you are, on how you can win a Thrustmaster T300 RS steering wheel later on in the broadcast. Lorenzo, we've been waiting for months and months for the start of this one. What are your thoughts, first of all, on this Buenos Aires racetrack?
Thank you, RJ. By the way, welcome everybody. I'm glad to be commentating over here. This track took some laps in it, and it's a really, really tricky track because it has all mixes of curves. It's quick. Some curves are really quick. They go flat out almost, and there is a mix of slow curves after fast curves. So drivers will have to manage their tires rather cautiously over here.
Right, indeed. This is going to be one of the fastest tracks on the calendar. This is the long and extended layout of the track used in the late 70s and early 1980s for the Formula One Argentine Grand Prix, where speeds can reach up to, and in the words of NASCAR legend Darrell Waltrip, 200 miles a damn hour down these long lake straightaways. And there's also some technical sections along the racetrack. We're, of course, in the middle of our qualifying session to set the starting grid for this race. It is a 25-minute qualifying session. We saw a lot of fast drivers out in practice, including our defending champion, Oscar Hardwick. But the fastest man in practice, one driver to watch for, representing the Mighty Fourth, is American Ryan Seltzer.
That's right, and Ryan Seltzer is one of the many drivers that can actually make an impact on this championship. We got Oscar Hardwick, we got Phil Rose, Gareth Masson, Paul Watkins. There's a whole lot of fuel drivers that actually can make this race really, really exciting.
Right, of course, the Demon Tweaks Racing drivers, Phil Rose and Gareth Messam, were among the quickest drivers in practice. We're starting to see the first time laps being set in the qualifying session. And no surprises here, defending champion Oscar Hardwick for Magenta World Racing Team, setting the fastest time provisionally. He's the only driver in the 152 in the sub 153 range. He set a lap of 152.940. This is about a second quicker than his quickest time in practice. So we'll start to see these laps start to tumble down as we get further along in the session. This track, of course, as we mentioned, one of the cradles of Latin American motorsport, first opened in 1952. This layout that we'll be using is nearly 6 kilometers in length. This is the number 15 circuit that was used for the Argentine Grand Prix from 1974 to 1981. In the history of the Argentine Grand Prix, many great drivers, of course, have won the Argentine Grand Prix. Names like Juan Manuel Fangio, national motorsport hero in Argentina. You have Sterling Moss, who's won this event. Mario Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi, the likes of Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill have won the race in its final years on the Formula One calendar. It's been used for a lot of events such as Brazilian stock cars, Turismo Carretera, the National Racing Championship of Argentina. And today, it plays host to the Super V8s, which are very similar to the Brazilian stock cars, but in a way, much, much different. And that's one of the talking points of this season of the championship. We have had races in the Super 8 V8s before, but this is the first round of the championship, and it is a much different experience from the front-wheel drive touring cars that we've been used to racing, Lorenzo.
Precisely, because these cars have an aero package which is much lesser than the cars we used last season, which were the Copa Marcas Petrobras Ross cars, which have more downforce and can carry more speed into the straights. These cars are Australians. They are packed with V8 power, like raw power. They can go flat out on the straights, but on the curves, that's where the driver techniques got to go into place, because one inch closer to the apex will make a lot of difference in this track, especially in this one.
A lot of big changes for those modern touring cars, the Super V8s. These are really, really fast cars. They'll put up over 650 horsepower. That's over twice as much as the Brasileiro de Marques cars that we've been racing in Season 9. There's also a fits differential in these cars. So really, these are cars that you cannot overdrive, in a sense. You can't overdrive them like you would a single-seater car or even a modern GT car. You have to be very patient, particularly on the low-speed corners, in applying the throttle on throttle exit, or else you're probably going to spin the car out right immediately.
Precisely, because, as you said, one slight touch on the throttle, you can override your vehicle, go off bounds, hit a wall, maybe get a DNF. That didn't happen in the Copa Marcas because those cars, as you said, they are low power. They run about 200 club horsepower. So these cars, you have to have not only technique, but you have to have awareness and very well placing when you're doing your curves and when you're getting out, and how you put your speed in. Everything is a factor in these cars.
Right, exactly. These cars, of course, have their lineage in the old Australian touring cars. These big, big cars that were very famous in Australian racing. You have the old Ford Falcons and the Holden Tiranas. And over the years, these cars have evolved into more modern racing machines. Maybe not the most sophisticated cars racing today, but they are certainly awe-inspiring racing machines. And they will certainly reward and test the skills of each and every one of these drivers. Oscar Hardwick's still the fastest driver on the board with a 1:52.9. That is your provisional pole time. Just 0.2 of a second to drift, though, is Phil Rose of Demon Tweaks Racing. Anders Nilsson sits third ahead of Ryan Seltzer and Mark Breland, two Mighty Ford drivers. Naraja Kumar sixth, Gareth Messon seventh, Mike Bell eighth, Franklin Stegic in ninth, and Gabriel Sturr rounding out the top 10. We have the top 10 covered by just 2 seconds. And that's pretty good on a long track such as this, where the fastest lap time is almost 2 minutes. This is a long, long lap, and on the longest configuration that we have on this Buenos Aires circuit.
Precisely, and I was talking to some drivers before we started to qualify. Some of them actually told me that the pace around this track would be with the 153s, as we are seeing right now with the top 10, except for Oscar Hardwick. But I think if we are to continue like this, we can go over the 152 highs, maybe mediums, with this high pace, and it's 25 minutes, so a lot can happen. We're still early in this qualify, so I'm excited, really excited.
One thing that the drivers have to be mindful of during the race is pit entry. This is a very treacherous pit entrance, so you'll see a lot of drivers will have to give advance notice to the cars around them when they start to come into the pits, because it is that dangerous of a pit entry. Be right on board with Oscar Hardwick. Hardwick is actually making his way into the final chicane on this lap. And as he makes it through this final right-hand section, pit entry is almost immediately after the apex of that last right-hand corner. So you don't have a lot of room to react if you don't have any advance notice that the car around you is going to be pitting.
Right on. And if I'm not mistaken, this was actually a subject of small complaints during the 19th Grand Prix, because it was so surprising that the pit entry was right after the curve that actually caught drivers by surprise. That you would have a lot of driver awareness to get into it and avoid any other cars. So, that being said, as we carry on through the race, we're probably going to have a pit stop, so drivers are going to be very mindful when jumping in and avoiding traffic and possibly getting accidents.
Yes, we project a race of just right around 30 laps, and the fuel tank carrying 112 virtual liters of petrol. That won't be enough to get through a full race distance of this very long circuit with a lot of wide open sections. So there will be a mid-race pit stop, and so the pit entry will be a factor, and hopefully these drivers can avoid calamity as they come into pit lane for their mid-race stop.
Yeah, and one thing the drivers will have to be very mindful, though, is the braking points, because those braking points, they usually come up really quick considering the car speed. So if you brake too late, you might do your curb, of course, but you're gonna lose tire wear. And in this track, since you have a mix between fast and slow curves, you're gonna wear your tires pretty quickly. So the longer you stay with your tires fresh and maybe with less wear, it's gonna be better for you down the race.
Right, and not only the tires will take a beating through that long right-hand corner that some of these drivers will be taking in 5th and 6th gear at around 200 kilometers an hour before plunging down the long second leg straightaway. It's also going to be pretty punishing on the brakes, because at the end of the second straightaway, these cars are going to be in excess of 300 kilometers an hour. They're going to have to slow down for a tricky right-left chicane that is, when I was practicing the track earlier today, it caught me out a couple of times.
Yeah, and it got me out a couple of times too, because normally you would brake right about the 100-meter board and let the brakes do its job. But since we are going 300 kilometers per hour and we don't have ABS on this car, you're probably going to have to brake a little bit sooner and let the brakes do their job and try to not lock them up. It's very easy to lock it up in this track. So there's the long straight, and also the finish start straight. The first two curves, those are also key curves as well, because they're both fast and you're gonna have to carry your speed through it very nicely to have a good position in the track.
That's right, these cars, very simple. No ABS, no traction or stability control, no fancy stuff, not even it's a lock differential on these cars, of course. All these cars really have are kind of just grunt power, but they are surprisingly agile around the corners for a 3,000-pound automobile. I mean, these things are huge. They're almost the size of a NASCAR stock car.
Yeah, and as you said, it's quite surprising how the aerodynamics of this car, even though it is simple as a concept of aerodynamics, actually hold this car down, because it's so quick, it's so agile, that if you didn't have a good aero package for these cars, even though basic, you would even be able to turn the car properly. You would just go flat out into a curve and hit the wall at 300 kilometers per hour. Let's just see if you do that in real life. That's going to do quite some damage, not only on the car, but on your body too.
We are just about 10 minutes away from the end of this qualifying session. It's still Oscar Hardwick leading, and he has actually gone quicker on his last lap around. His previous lap time, a 1:52.9. He has improved to a 1:52.821. That's the quickest time we've seen around this racetrack so far, and he's the only driver who's gotten under the 1 minute and 53 second threshold. Phil Rose and Gareth Messam of Demon Tweaks Racing had been second and third, but hold the phone, Ryan Seltzer has moved his way into second in the green and white Mighty Fourth 2 entry. He's now second ahead of Rose and Messam. Anders Nilsson in 5th place for Smile Power Racing 5th Dimension. This is a white, blue, and yellow car in the colors of Sweden. Paul Watkins sits on the board. Then we get to Sean Allen in the Caterpillar car. He's in 7th. Mark Breland is in 8th. Rajan Kumar 9th, and Mike Bell rounding out the top 10 with Franklin Stegging, Tobias Reuner, Gabriel Sturr, Paul Joseph, and Charles Baccio completing the top 15 on the board. We're getting under the 10 minutes to go mark, and this is where the drivers are going to start to find more pace than they ever have before in practice. So as a driver, Lorenzo, what is your approach as you come into these stages of qualifying, where you know you have to put in a pretty fast lap to guarantee yourself a high spot on the grid for the race upcoming?
Right. During season 9, where I was a driver, you would actually want to focus on and say you would put your best lap. but you have to think of some factors, of course, that you want a clean track, you don't want any traffic at all, and if you can get some crap from a teammate driver that some of the drivers might be doing over here, they probably are going to do over here, of course, but you have to be very mindful of your time and try to make the fast lap you can. Like if it is a fast lap or a slow lap, just make sure you're doing everything clean, smooth, and it will pay off in the end, of course, if you do everything as just said. So that's pretty much the game plan I do for my races.
Right, of course, you can use up all the tires you want. These Super V8s are especially tough on the soft compound tires that a lot of these drivers will be using in qualifying with their heavy weight and how much the force they put on through the curves. You don't have to worry so much about conserving tires as you would in a real-life V8 Supercars race, where you're actually allotted only a certain number of tires, not just for a race weekend, for an entire season. That's all you get, and it's a pretty limited amount. But in these virtual races with the Super V8s, you can just go for the gusto and as many laps as you want and not have to worry about serving tires throughout the course of the season. So they'll have more opportunities to attack.
That's right. And as you said, unlimited tires, you got unlimited fuel too, because you can actually escape and go back to the pits and do another lap if you miss it. Like, oh, I missed my lap, so I'm gonna do it all over again. So you reset everything. But one thing is notice, as you said, you have limited tires over here. It's unlimited, of course. I think over the race, the same thread is going to continue of drivers using the soft tires, because those tires give you a lot of grip, and you can actually survive around 30 minutes of race with soft tires if you know how to drive them and avoid any kind of shenanigans over the race.
Right, but of course these drivers will still have to take care of those tires, particularly through those high-speed corners that make up most of this track and under braking for the more technical sections of the course. Still just over 6.5 minutes to go. Later on in the broadcast, we'll have details on how you, the viewer, can win a Thrustmaster T300 RS steering wheel for PC, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 3 from our friends at Thrustmaster. One of our drivers will be winning one of those brand new steering wheels, and you, the viewer watching at home or on the go, can win one of these wheels as well. We'll have more information on that later on in the broadcast in our 60-minute feature race. Only one feature race in this round of the championship. We'll expect a pit stop. We'll expect to see some drivers taking care of their tires and some drivers trying to stretch them out for what last little bit of performance they can get out of them. Speaking of getting the last bit of performance, we are just under 6 minutes until the end of this qualifying session. Oscar Hardwick still the man on top, the defending RDTCC champion, is the only man who has set a lap time under 1 minute 53 seconds, but he still has a lot of close competition behind him that could pose a threat during the race.
That's right, and looking by the time the drivers are putting, they're improving every lap a little bit more. So it's not going to be a surprise if one driver comes up with the 152s really close to Oscar's time. So down the line, we still have right about 5 minutes to go. You can see actually a surprise coming down on the end. It's qualified, so all hell can break loose, and that's what's exciting about qualifying.
Right, indeed. Of course, no need to make sudden last-minute changes for excitement here. There's plenty of it in this session as the minutes start to tick down. And guys like Ryan Selter and Phil Rose and Gareth Messam are desperately trying to squeeze what little tenths of a second they can find just to get themselves in a better grid position for today's race and try and knock Hardwick off the pole position.
That's right, and one thing on the drivers will have to be very mindful too is try to avoid the corner cuts, because if you see a lot of part of these tracks, certain part of these tracks, especially the second curve after the long straight, it has a long stretch of curbs, but the track line actually is predefined. That has been passed to the drivers. They will have to take care of that line though, because if you don't, you're probably going to have a corner cutting penalty coming up for you really shortly.
Right. Of course, track limits, a big issue all throughout motorsports, not just on the virtual side, but on the real world side of things as well. And that's something that all drivers have to be mindful of as they're setting their fastest lap, is to stay within the track boundaries or face repercussions later on, perhaps after the event, in the form of a time penalty that may ultimately impact their final standing in the race, and could ultimately impact their championship standing further on down the road. We have just 3 minutes left to go. Does anyone in this field have something for Oscar Hardwick? Will a driver like Seltzer, Messam, or Rose be able to knock him off the pole position? These minutes are starting to tick down, and we are getting closer to finding out how they'll line up for this first round of the Race Department Touring Car Championship, presented by Thrustmaster. And we understand that Phil Rose is on a quick lap. Phil Rose improves to within 0.02 of a second of Oscar Hardwick's best time. He's still second, but he is now within that sub 153 range on an absolute blistering lap.
Yes, as I said, minutes counting down. We're right about 2 minutes to go. There could be a lot of surprises coming up, so let's see if anybody else does 152, and who knows, they even passed Oscar and Phil Rose and got that pole position.
Know that Ryan Seltzer is completing a lap right now. I think he'll have time for a couple more laps around the circuit. It depends on what time it is when he crosses the line to complete this lap. He's around the final corner. The mighty 4th entry of Seltzer. He's got to clear a 152.8 to get on pole position. Does he improve on this lap from a 153.1? No, he does not. He stays in third right now. Paul Watkins shot up the order. He's now 6th, ahead of Sean Allen, Mark Breland, Naranjan Kumar, and Davey Vandeveen, completing the top 10 from 6th into 10th. So it's still Hardwick on pole position, and he's still setting lap times with just under 2 minutes to go in the session. So he may be looking to improve upon his current benchmark. Phil Rose is sitting in the garage. Ryan Seltzer is on the hot lap. Messam is sitting in the garage. Nilsson just completing a lap time. He moves into 4th with a 153.384. So Nilsson moves him. And look at this. Hardwick is just now completing another lap. Oh, big slide for the magenta and black car, and he gets it just loose coming out of there. That's such a difficult thing to apply the throttle freely on these cars. Just under a minute to go. Seltzer completing another lap. As he starts to make his way into the infield section, and he just slides it through that low-speed corner.
And that's a shame. That's a shame. He was actually doing the first sector more quickly than Oscar. He was actually under Oscar's current time.
All right, but he may have one more lap to get it right here. He goes in the way of Seltzer's machine. With just under 20 seconds to go. Flying laps will count. Seltzer, I believe he may have missed the pit entry. And he's off. So Seltzer will not complete another lap. See if anybody else has anything for him. Franklin Stegic has moved into 6th, however. Anders Nilsson completing his lap. The checkered flag has fallen. Lap times will count in this session, but they got to make it count.
That's
Paul
right.
Watkins moves into 7th, I should say. Nilsson completing his lap. He's got one more corner to go. Does he have anything to improve up his position? He's on outside row 2, right at the second. Where is he going to end up when he completes this lap? He's on a 153.3 right now. Does he improve? No, he doesn't. He will stay 4th on the grid. Stegan completing a lap here. He's approaching the infield section. My goodness, that one right-hand corner is just so hard to get right. Just completing the last couple of low-speed corners. Right now, it is Oscar Hardwick's pole position, but there are a couple drivers who may be able to challenge that, as this section is just about wrapping up. Let's see what he's got here. Just one more corner to go, and we should have this grid set. Does Franklin Steggink have anything for Oscar Hardwick's time? He's going to have to improve by over a second to get there. Let's see what this lap will put him. It will not be an improvement, so Steggink stays in 6th place, and this will about wrap up qualifying. Oscar Hardwick, the defending series champion, takes pole position ahead of Phil Rose.
That's right, and it's amazing that Oscar did that lap really quickly. I could have not done it. That's what it takes for a driver to be top notch, getting every single apex of the track right, the proper speed, carry out properly, avoid any major incidents like over braking or over sliding. So now we are done with qualifying. I'm really excited for this race.
It is a big weekend in motorsport. You have the real-life V8 supercars competing in their season opener in the Clipsal 500 in Adelaide. A couple races already in the books, with the big 250-kilometer race yet to run. Let us run down the starting grid for this 60-minute feature race from Buenos Aires circuit. The pole position going to defending champion Oscar Hardwick, and on the outside of the front row, Phil Rose of Demon Tweets Racing. On the second row is American Ryan Seltzer and Sweden's Anders Nilsson. On the third row, Gareth Messam and Franklin Steggink. In the fourth row is Paul Watkins and Mark Breland, completing an almighty fourth row. On the fifth row, it's Naranjan Kumar and Mike Bell. In the sixth row, Paul Joseph and Gabriel Sturr. The seventh row, a couple of Raptor engineering cars, Lorenzo Tobias Reuner and Charles Baccio. In the eighth row is Mateus Machado and Alex Di Domenicantonio, a new face in the Race Department Touring Car Championship. Row 9, Sergio Mengual and Thomas Pazzi of Hungary. Row 10, Will New and Moises Navarro. In the 11th row is the Lemsuriers, Paul and Ian. In the 12th row, Peter Vukratovich and Steve Legals. In the 13th row, Gensi Estebanez and Matt Bailey. And in the 14th row, Bill Grubcock, Sven Arne Anderson. So we should have, if I believe, a full field of 30 cars. There's a couple of cars that we didn't get to, of course. Some drivers keep popping in and out of the server. Lorenzo, what do you expect for this race going forward? Who are your predictions on a race winner?
My prediction, I'm not going to be the obvious guy and say Oscar Hardwick, even though he's really quick. I'm going to be very honest. I think Phil Rose, by what I saw in qualifying practice, he's been pushing his car to the very limit. I think he's going to have some advantage over Hardwick. I picked Phil Rose.
Well, I think if anybody has a chance to upset Oscar Hardwick in this race, I'm picking Ryan Seltzer out of the Mighty Ford stable. Qualify third, should get a good start off the line, and we'll see what happens in this race. So we got just over a minute to go until the start of this opening round of the championship. It'll be a 60-minute race, just over 30 laps, 31 laps will be the projected distance of this one. We'll see one mid-race pit stop for fuel and tires. This should be a very, very fascinating event. And of course, later on in the broadcast, we'll have more details about the giveaway of a new Thrustmaster T300 RS steering wheel for PC, PS4, and PS3. This game, of course, being presented in Raze Studios' Game Stock Car Extreme. Of course, you can check out Raze Studios' newest title, Automobilista. Available now on PC through Steam Early Access. Automobilista puts you in the driving seat of an advanced racing simulator to deliver a uniquely diverse motorsports experience. We have just 10 seconds to go before the cars will start to grid up. And the opening round of the Race Department Touring Car Championship will be underway with defending champion Oscar Hardwick starting on pole position. This will be a fantastic event. Lorenzo, I'm really looking forward to see what these cars can bring to what is not a traditional V8 Supercars track by any means. The V8 Supercars have never raced here, but cars like it have raced here in the past, and this car should bring some great racing to this historic circuit.
That's right. As you said, the V8s haven't raced over here, the Australian V8s. We raced with the TC1000. We did the Argentinian Turismo cars, which are very similar to the V8s in terms of aerodynamics. One quick remark, though, which is really cool about this track that you don't see on others, that the first curve is rather a really open curve, not a closed curve where you can actually get a first, second, and instant. So caution is going to be in turn 2, not on turn 1.
Right, the lights are about to go out, and when they go up and when they are extinguished, we'll be underway with the start of this race, and it's a good start for Hardwick. He is off like a cannon. This, now hold the phone. I may have just fallen to the victim to the commentator's curse. We are setting up for a formation lap. My goodness, that's going to be something that I'll be reminded about for years down the road. It's a formation lap, and not... They'll take one around the track before we actually get going. My apologies to everybody watching. Of course, you can ping me at RJ O'Connell on Twitter to let me know of how badly I just screwed that one up.
Well, continue on the remarks. Actually, when I said turn 2 is a really quick curve, but they're going to have to brake on turn 2. So whenever you don't have the attention during the race, whenever it starts, because you always know that first lap, you don't win a first lap, neither on the first turn. So be very careful carrying out that speed, be very clean, very cautious with your approach, and then let just the race do its job, because you're eventually going to get laps, you're going to battle for laps, maybe lose a few positions. So I'm really excited with this race, and still under formation lap.
Right, they're just circulating around the track down the second lake straightaway. This is the fastest part of the circuit. When these cars get up to speed, as you mentioned, the first couple of corners, it's going to be flat out going to that first corner. It's that second corner usually taking about fourth gear. They'll need to back it down just a bit to be able to hook the car into the apex to avoid sliding wide and off into the grass and in the gravel, because that opening part of the lap is where you're going to need to carry all the momentum and speed that you can in order to get the most out of that one lap.
That's right. And one thing is actually very, very dangerous in turn 2 is if you go off, there's a very, very high chance you might go off track and maybe join the track while spinning, and that might be very, very dangerous for drivers that are behind, that you might get into a big one. So be very careful when you're approaching that curve.
The cars start to make their way through the final corners on this formation lap. We have a very colorful grid, a very international grid of some of the finest sim racers on the planet doing battle for 60 minutes in these awesome Super V8 machines. Our thanks, of course, go to everybody in the staff of Race Department, to our broadcast director, Bram Hangeveld, to everybody at Race's Studios, to our series organizer, Chris Stacy, to our sponsors at Thrustmaster, of course, to my broadcast partners, Lorenzo Bonder. Thomas Sims couldn't be here this week, but we should expect to see him for the next round of the championship at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve at Montreal. Now the cars are getting into formation for the proper start of this 60-minute race. We'll take a standing start in traditional V8 Supercars fashion, and then the lights will go on, then they'll be extinguished, and we'll be underway for the first round of this championship. These are the tensest moments that any driver can feel, the moments before the start of the race. And what must be going through these drivers' minds as they anticipate the start, as the last couple of cars take their places on the grid. We should start to see everybody on the grid now. And the revs are coming up. The lights are coming on. We are 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And when they're extinguished, we'll be underway in Buenos Aires. It's a great start for Oscar Hardwick. Phil Rose gets a bit of a slow start. Ryan Seltzer is already up in his way into second. He'll have the inside line going into turn number 1. Let's see if they'll get through this sequence of curves cleanly. It's a great start for most of the field. I do believe they got through cleanly. And look at that. Look at this. Oscar Hardwick checks out. Ryan Seltzer moves into second. Anders Nilsson third. Phil Rose lost 2 places on that starting. And now he's under pressure from Franklin Stegging, who started 6th and is already up into 5th.
That's right. And also we got more battles in the back. We got Sean Allen. We got being fighting for position with Charles Baccio. Being also pressured by Paul Joseph. So very, very action-packed start here at Buenos Aires.
Right, this is the fastest part of the circuit. The car's approaching 180 miles an hour, and have to slow way, way down as Ryan Seltzer looks up the inside of Anders Nilsson. Nilsson's taken the position. They've slowed down by over 100 miles per hour just to make that right-left chicane. See, the car's screaming through that fast right-hander.
Yeah, that's right. And also, we got another fight for positions. Franklin Stegging move up to 5th. And other drivers are moving up to positions too, fighting it out on the hairpin.
This is some good racing.
Oh,
the
we
drivers
got a crash.
Oh, goodness. Oh, we got several cars in trouble.
Yeah, we got Mark Breland. We got Sean Allen that crashed onto the second hairpin. Got a little bit of race incident, not a lot of damage going on, but let's just see how that damage goes out throughout the race.
We saw one car in the back shot gotten off the grass. It doesn't look like any severe damage to anybody involved in that little ruckus. At any rate, Oscar Hardwick is going to lead the first lap, and he's already cleared 1.3 seconds over second place Anders Nilsson, who himself is cleared about a second over Ryan Seltzer. So the front runners have started to space out a bit. Mike Bell, though, is coming under the gun from Gareth Messam. Messam in 8th trying to chase down Mike Bell, but Messam gets it all wrong. He slides and gets it all wrong. He's going to lose several positions out of this. He's already dropped down to 14th place. And as I mentioned, this part of the track, you cannot afford to lose any momentum.
That's right, yeah. So you said this part of the track is dangerous because the corner entry on turn 2 matters a lot, because 1 inch off, you're on the grass. 1 inch in, you're gonna lose time because you're into the inside part of the track. So try to hit the apex as fast as you can over here and try to avoid getting off that grass. That might happen, which could happen exactly what happened to Garrett. He missed it, got off the track, and almost joined with a lot of danger to hold the race.
And of course, in a less developed sim, the grass won't lose you too much time or grip. But in a sim like this, of course, you'll lose a lot of time and a lot of traction once you slip off, especially in one of these Super V8s. It's still Oscar Hardwick out in front. We've got some interesting battles up and down the grid, though, as Franklin Stegging starts to close in on 4th place Phil Rose. Mike Bell is relieved from the pressure of Gareth Messam, but he's got Gabriel Sturr right behind him in 8th. Charles Baccio 9th, Paul Joseph in 10th. It's a very good start for most of the competitors in this race. Not a whole lot of incidents, though. We do see Davey Bandeveen running around in about 30th place. He may have been involved in something.
Yeah, we couldn't see what happened. Davey's our camera producer for the past season. We really hope that he does well in this race. But meanwhile, we got some action going in the mid-packs. Some drivers following it up, and Niraj Kumar trying to pass Mark Paul Joseph turn 1.
Right, and that's for 10th position. Niraj Kumar pursuing in that yellow and blue Super V8, and Paul Joseph in the green and white car. Look at Niraj Kumar's car. It almost kind of reminds you of perhaps one of the old Renaults from the mid-2000s, made famous by the likes of Alonso, Trulli, and Fisichella. And when you see Paul Joseph's car, it almost reminds me of the old Botolo cars, made famous by the likes of David Reynolds and Paul Dumbrell in the real-life V8 Supercars Championship.
That's right. Now he's making a move for Charles Baccio for 9th place, and he does it. He actually passed Charles Baccio, and he's in 9th place.
Strong slipstream effect, particularly down this second straightaway, and they've got to really slow it down. And of course, the danger with this right-left chicane that they're approaching is that it's very easy to overshoot and miss your braking marks completely and miss the corner just flat out.
That's right. As you said, you overshoot your brake point, you can go into the straight section and eventually onto the tire barrier, which is in the end of the straight section, or you actually can make the curve. But as I said, you're gonna lose a lot of tire wear because you're locking up those brakes very tightly.
Oh goodness! Further back in the field, Genshi Estebanez. And running towards the back of the field, he spun it, but he's now back on track, unfortunately down there in 28th place. Oscar Hardwick still out to an advantage, and he just opened up another half second on his lead over Anders Nilsson. It's still Hardwick over Nilsson, then Ryan Seltzer third, Phil Rosen fourth, Franklin Stegging has moved into fifth, Paul Watkins in sixth ahead of Mike Bell, who's under pressure from Gabriel Sturr in eighth. Paul Joseph has moved his way into ninth place ahead of Charles Baccio, and Ranjan Kumar is 11th place ahead of Mark Breland. Mateus Machado and Tobias Reuter, two Raptor Engineering drivers, running 13th and 14th respectively. And Sergio Mengual competing the top 15 as they have completed 3 laps in this race. So we still have plenty of racing action left to go in this first round of the Race Department Touring Car Championship Season 10, presented by Thrustmaster.
Oh, and Paul Joseph at the 29 car just made a move on Gabriel Sturr. Now he's in 8th place and trying to reach up on Mike Bell and Paul Watkins for 6th and 7th.
So at the moment, it is that 29 car of Paul Joseph in the mighty 4th that is really making the most moves and trying to claw his way up into the top 5 in this race. And he's got plenty of time to do it. He's making some moves early. He's really taking care of the car. And now he's got Mike Bell in his sights in 7th place. It is just so great to see some of these cars. They're really starting to slide around a bit. This is where the tires just start to fall off on these cars, particularly the soft tires. They have a tendency to start sliding around after a few laps, particularly with how much power they're putting down on these Dunlop tires.
That's right, and whenever you're trying to reach your leader, let's just say the guy in front of you, you're gonna have to wear your tires rather quickly and strongly because you want to reach that guy, you want to pass him so you can have a better position, and who knows, maybe better, you're gonna get better points off of the championship run. But you have to be mindful of trying to take care of them as fast as you can because that makes a difference down the line.
For 9th place, here's Gabriel Sturr under pressure for Naranjan Kumar. It's the 72 and the 77, and Kumar is taking Charles Baccio with him. Kumar makes the move for 9th place, and Baccio trying to perhaps make a move on the outside of Gabriel Sturr. I don't know if it's going to work. Remember, that's a one-line groove through that long right-hander. It isn't quite like an oval track where you have multiple grooves, but Baccio is in the slipstream right now. He's challenging for 10th on Gabriel Sturr. Sturr is going to hold his line and see if Baccio can make this move stick under braking. So they're side by side going into this corner. Is Baccio going to make the move? It doesn't look like he's going to have the real estate, but he's not giving up the fight just yet. Baccio slips under the outside. And now he's going to be stuck on the outside again, so it looks like Sturr is holding him off for a bit. So they're really going at it for the final spot in the top 10.
That's right, and right behind him, if you notice, the number 44, Mike Breland, is actually caught up to them. He passed Mateus Machado in the long straight curve, and now he's coming up to them, expecting any mistakes, or who knows, even past him on the straight lines.
We're already starting to see some brake smoke, some dust being thrown up by these drivers. This is a tough track on tires. It's also, these cars inherently tough on brakes. The temperatures will really get up on these cars if they start to slow down. As I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, these are big, big cars, and it take a lot of stopping power to slow down for some of these slower corners. Oscar Hardwick, of course, has opened up his lead now to just over 2.4 seconds over Anders Nilsson. So at the moment, he's building up a comfortable cushion early on in this race. We still have plenty of action to go, including pit stops.
That's right, and we just passed the 10-minute mark in this race. So right now, the drivers are going to start to fall off from one another. Is going to open up the gap eventually and naturally, but I believe the mid-pack guys are still going to be stuck together and just trying to fight for positions the entire race, even with the pit stops.
That is true. For 7th place, Mike Bell in the purple and white car of Smile Power 5th Dimension Racing under pressure from Paul Joseph. This is the battle for 7th place, and just ahead of them is Paul Watkins in another Mighty Fourth machine. So Mike Bell sandwiched between two Mighty Fourth cars, looking to try and perhaps move his way up, but he's got to be mindful of the car behind him and try not to give away that position, which is always a tough thing to do when you're racing an anger like this.
That's right, and the number
and just as I say that, Mark Breland has spun. He's taken some contact. He's going to rejoin the track, but he's already lost several positions. Don't know how bad the damage is, but Mark Breland down there in 18th place has had a bit of an off.
That's right, we couldn't see what happened. I'm gonna take a look at the replay and let you know what happened.
That is a big shocker. So that was Breland, who has now fallen down into... We're looking for him on our scoring screens. He has fallen way, way down this order. He's down there in 18th place now, and he's been running well up in the field. Well up into the top 10. That's a big shame. Hardwick still leading over Nilsson and Seltzer. I believe Mateus Machado in 16th place has run off the track as well. So that's one of the Raptor cars that have been running in the top 15 all race. A bit of an off, but he's rejoined the track, but he's about to get passed by Alex Dominica Antonio. Certainly one of the most interesting, it's one of the most fun surnames to call out during a Race Department Touring Car broadcast is that of Alex Dominica Antonio.
That's right, and also Paul Joseph, the number 29 made the move on Mike Bell, and now he's 7th place.
So Joseph has moved into 7th, but Mike Bell is not giving up the fight. Let's see what they've got going into this very slow corner. This really isn't a place of the track where you can do a whole lot of passing unless a driver in front of you makes a mistake. Very much a one-line groove. It's very tight and narrow through this section of the track. We're really going to have to look for other places to make a move on this part other than this part of the track. There may be something lining up for Bell soon, but at the moment, Joseph is starting to pull away just ever so slightly.
And right off the back, we got the number 19 of Steel Legal trying to fight for position with Will New, and Will just had a hard brake, locked up the brakes, and might made a move, might leave a little bit of opening for Steve to reach in and try to find that position.
Yeah, Will New, I just looked, and this car was really dancing around out of the back end. He's really working to try and keep this field of cars behind him. He locks up the brakes yet again, and that gives Legal a chance to move through for position. I believe he may have missed the pit entry. Oh, goodness, what on earth happened there? New has lost several positions. I don't know what... Down there in 22nd place.
What happened is he actually overshot the curve and actually put the throttle too much in and lost control of his car, and eventually it went off.
Right, there's too much power on the exit of the corner. That's something that these drivers, as I mentioned, have to be mindful of way, way more so than in the touring cars we've been used to seeing in previous seasons of the Race Department Touring Car Championship. not just in this Stock Car Extreme Sim, but also in previous titles from seasons 1 through 8.
That's right. These cars will not give you one moment of patience because, as you said, they carry a lot of power. They're gonna have to make you work the entire 60 minutes. You're gonna have eventually back spasms. I would have back spasms if I was racing this race trying to keep control of this car. But as I said, these cars will not, they are restless. Drivers will have to take advantage of every single minute and try to get an early rest whenever they can. We're not being pressured by another driver.
Well, of course, you mentioned the physicality that these V8 supercars require. Of course, the great Greg Murphy, that 6-time winner of the Bathurst 1000, had to change his driving style completely late in his career because it was affecting his back so much.
Yeah, because as I said, these cars, they have so much raw power. You would get a lot of G-force coming out of the curves. The car would push you, and that makes a lot of damage in your back. Even though we are sim racers, we feel that same pain too, believe me not.
Right, so it is. We have completed around 15 minutes of this race. We have 8 laps in the books, and Oscar Hardwick is leading over Anders Nilsson at second. Ryan Seltzer is in third place ahead of Phil Rose. Franklin Stegging completes the top 5. Going to 6th place is Paul Watkins in the Mighty 4 team, ahead of Paul Joseph, who's being chased by Mike Bell in 8th. Narajan Kumar is 9th, and Charles Baccio completes the top 10. In 11th is Gareth Messam. Gabriel Sturr in 12th, though he's under pressure big time from Sean Allen in 13th. They're actually side by side going down the second Lake straightaway. Now it is Allen who has moved in 12th place ahead of Sturr. Sergio Mengual is 14th, and Tobias Reuner completes the top 15 in this running order. So we still have much more racing yet to come in this one.
That's right. And I want to just make a quick remark on Garen, give him props, because we've seen him actually in the beginning of the race. He had a race incident. He lost a lot of position, was thrown down to 19th, 18th place. And now he's making a recovering race and actually approaching the top 10.
That's true. He had a bit of an off earlier in the race, but he's recovered nicely up until this point. And a top 5 finish, not entirely out of the question. It's going to be a long race, and he's making all the moves that he needs to. And in fact, Gareth Messam, for 10th place, he's gotten past Charles Baccio, so he's now in the top 10. Baccio's not going to give up the fight, though, as they dice and dash down the front straightaway. Baccio looking for a way around as they're almost in the inside wall going through the front straightaway.
Yeah, and that's where everything can get hectic. You lose the position, you want to get that back, and you want to do anything in your power to get that position back, even though you're going to be very highly prone to mistakes. So if you want to get your position back, go for it, but do it in a very cautious and a very, very clean manner, because otherwise you can go off. And by the way, Charles Baccio, the number 4, just passed Garen Messam back to 10th position.
Right, so it's a real seesaw battle. In 7th, there's another battle. Paul Joseph just got past Mike Bell, but let's see what Bell has. This is for 7th place between Paul Joseph and Mike Bell. So this is another spirited fight that has been going on for most of the race. And these two are really, really going at it for that position. See plenty of drivers starting to lock it up big time as they approach some of these corners. Oh, bit of contact in the battle for 7th between Bell and Joseph. They'll race on. No huge damage, though that has allowed 9th place Narajan Kumar to sneak into that battle for 7th place. So this could become a 3-way dance at some point.
That's right, and in the back, the number 44, Mike Breland, just passed Thomas Pazzi for the 17th position. So, quite an action-packed race here, RJ.
Right, and unfortunately, we do have one retirement, and that's Sean Allen in the Palm and Concrete Racing Car is out of this race. He's our first retirement. Yeah,
actually, we are almost 15 minutes past in this race, and it's highly surprising. We didn't actually have a lot of DNFs. everything just smooth and clean.
Right, and that's a testament, of course, to the driving standards of everybody who races in the race department official leagues, such as the Race Department Touring Car Championship. These are high-caliber drivers who put in hours upon hours of practice preparing for this race. Some of them have, at least. Definitely, certainly, the top crop of these drivers have. There's a lot of drivers hold themselves to a great standard of professionalism and driving safety out there on the racetrack. And that's something that we can take pride in.
That's right, because racing in one of these kind of leagues is not easy. It takes a lot of determination and capacity of a driver to being able to put some time in, practice. And Davey Vandeven just made a move, an aggressive move on Will New, and actually just got it this 22nd spot, and the 20th and 23rd is quite action-packed. But back to the matter, as I said, many drivers are putting hours after hour after hour in this championship, so we hope we get a payoff, and we try to put our best into these tracks and into these cars. So that's why it's really good to watch these guys race and even race in these kind of leagues.
Right. Sim racing, of course, has become a valuable tool for many professional racing drivers. And just out of the race department community, many top light drivers such as Alpha Van Doren, Danny Uncadella, Fernando Reese, and Florian Strauss, just to name a few, have participated in race department events in years past, and they have now moved on to bigger and better things. I'm sure. Right. And just many great drivers using sim racing as a tool to get to where they are. And certainly maybe one of these drivers can one day find themselves a future in real life motorsport. We'll see many years down the road. Just check in on the spirited fight for 7th place. Mike Bell has actually distanced himself a bit by about 2 car lengths, but Naranjan Kumar has caught the back of Paul Joseph in 8th. So we're starting to see a 3-way battle for position. And in fact, Kumar using the slipstream on Joseph, he may be lining up a move.
A 3 wide?
Caught in the middle of this. They're 3 wide down the back straightaway. Kumar has made his way past Bell. Joseph has made his way past Bell. Who is going to get the advantage? It's Kumar. Oh, and there's a bit of contact. Bit of contact. They're all going to race on, though. Joseph got off track a bit. He was a bit out of shape. But Bell has gotten past him. Is he going to make the move stick? Let's see. Kumar has already passed them. Oh, Bell with a huge up and under move to get into 8th place.
Well, that was action-packed to the very last bit. And if you guys notice, if they keep going on the same pace, they're going to reach Paul Watkins in 6th place rather easily, because they were going really quickly in closing that gap.
On the other hand, if they keep slugging it out like this and keep making these aggressive moves, they're going to let Paul Watkins sail off into the distance. He sits right now.
Definitely.
Kumar, oh, a bit of a wiggle there coming out of the final quarter for Kumar in 7th place. Bell in 8th, Joseph 9th. Haven't said a whole lot about race leader Oscar Hardwick up to this point of the race because he's held a comfortable lead. Hasn't really stretched out a huge margin at this point of the race, but he has held a very comfortable margin. He's not let Anders Nilsson close up to within a dangerous distance just yet, so he's really managing the pace of this race early on in the going.
That's right, but to the counterpart, Anders has been doing a pretty good job to not let Oscar get a larger gap than the 2.5 they have right now. Actually, he's keeping touch, driving around a similar pace, but let's just see. It's an early race. We haven't even gone past the 20-minute mark, so we can get a lot of action down the road.
5th place is Franklin Stegant, and right behind them is Paul Watkins in 6th. And as you mentioned, Naranjan and I believe some of the leaders have caught up to lap traffic as Paul Watkins in 6th gets around the lap car of Matt Bailey in the Sega Racing machine. Naranjan Kumar in 7th starting to catch up to Watkins. And Franklin Stegant can't get too comfortable because all that battle for 6th and 7th is starting to close up right on him.
That's right, and that lap traffic can actually do wonders for the guys in the back in the mid pack, because one curve they eventually gonna open up. They can cause some havoc and let a guy right behind you get to you, and who knows, even past you, and that is frustrating for our driver. But that's part of racing. You have to live with these kind of incidents, so to speak, of course.
Right. Oscar Hardwick at the end of his last lap had to negotiate some lap traffic. Almost got it out of shape, but the defending champion, of course, moving his way through the lap traffic with relative ease. It's not always it's a tough task to get your way through the slower traffic. It's even tougher, of course, to be in that position where you're off the pace.
That's right.
And trying to make your way and trying to make yourself perhaps. Trying to not make yourself a nuisance. And oh goodness, Phil Rose has retired from 4th place. Phil Rose in the Demon Tweaks racing car is out. That's the second retirement from 4th place.
Wow, that's a shame. That's a really shame. We don't know what happened. We're probably going to get a visual after the race, but that's a real shame to see a driver with his caliber go off the race.
Right, what a shame. Phil Rose had been very quick in practice and qualified well for the race. It hadn't gone according to plan through this part of it, but it looked like he was on pace for a top 5 finish, and just now it is all over.
That's right. And one quick thing, RJ, Garrett Massam in the 65 car is fighting for position with Mike Bell. Mike Bell in the beginning of the lap went off the grass.
They touch!
Yes, they touched, but they're still keeping it clean around the curves. Let's just see. And Garrett has just passed Mike Bell. Nice move.
This is for
right
8th
now.
place. Gareth Messam has moved his way into the top 8. It's a great recovery drive for the second Demon Tweaks racing car, where his teammate has now unfortunately fallen out of the race. Gareth Messam is really making up the distance. And Naranjan Kumar, as we start to see, I think Franklin Stegging is in. The leaders are starting to pit. Franklin Stegging has pit for 6th. Paul Joseph is also in the pits now. Stegging is in. And I believe Mike Bell has come in the pits as well. So we're starting to see the first of these cars start to come in. Entering pit lane, not an issue for these drivers in particular. They're probably going to go for 4 tires and a full tank of fuel. So let's see out of these drivers who makes it out of pit lane first.
That's right. In the meanwhile, up front, we got Naranjan Kumar fighting for position, trying to reach Paul Watkins at 4th place. And he's actually doing a good job closing the gap, curve by curve, straight by straight. And now he's going to have to slipstream. I hope. No, he's not. He's actually quite far, but he's closing down the gap. You can actually see.
And out of that battle for position out of the pits, Franklin Stegging now in 14th place. So he's made his stop. He gets out ahead of Paul Joseph and Mike Bell. And that's going to be crucial. And Stegging rejoins the track. No drama there for the Dutch veteran racing driver. As he starts to make his way out there, he's on cold tires, so he's got to be careful not to push too hard. But of course, a driver, but doesn't matter. And Oscar Hardwick now coming into the pits. Race leader is in from the lead.
That means Anders Nilsson, which has not pit yet, is going to be 1st place, and Ryan Seltzer following behind is going to be 2nd place.
Oscar Hardwick coming in the pits. Now, these drivers really can't stretch it out much further on this initial tank of fuel. In-game calculations have the fuel tank lasting them about 17 laps around this racetrack, give or take.
And
So they can't really try and stretch out this first step too much. Gareth Messam in 6th place, also coming in for his stock. Bit of a lockup there, but he gets it slowed down just enough. Nilsson, is he going to come and try and complete one more lap? We'll see. Hardwick just about through with his stop. Messam coming into the pits now.
And RJ, one odd thing is Charles Bacho, the number 4, has reached Naranjan Kumar, which out of the blue, I think he was trying to join the pits. came up late.
Yep, this is for 4th place, and Baccio may be trying to make a move on Naranjan Kumar right here under braking. Oh, it's so treacherous getting it slowed down for this part. Baccio on the outside lane. I believe he has made it past for 4th place. So he's clear of Naranjan Kumar.
That's right, but Naranjan's got the slipstream. He's going to follow it up and try to make a move down the straight, probably on the outside since Charles is closing that inside gap.
All right, the slipstream really powerful on these cars, and Naranjan Kumar may use it to his advantage to try and retake 4th position away from Charles Baccio. See right here is this going to be the lap that Nilsson comes in? We'll see. He's got just a couple of meters left to go before he reaches pit entry. He's going to slow it down, and yes, Anders Nilsson's going to pit. Oh my goodness! In true David Coulthard fashion, he hits the tire barrier on the entrance of pit lane. It gets it going, though. Seltzer's going to stay out one more lap. That could be crucial. It may not, he's driven away from it now, but that may cost him position later in the race. Doesn't look like he got too much damage out of that, but that could have been a whole heck of a lot worse. Paul Watkins also pitting now. So is Naranjan Kumar. Baccio is going to stay out. Ryan Seltzer is going to inherit the lead.
That's right, and that's where the pit tactics start to come up, because you don't know if you pit earlier is going to make a lot of difference to you, or pit later is going to make a better difference. So drivers now are putting their pit tactics up to the par and see if it pays off to them in the end of the race.
Right, and this isn't really a track where you can where you can kind of bypass the tire change. You need to have 4 tires stop really to have any chance of being competitive towards the end of the race.
That's right. It's because here, as we said, tires, fuel, driver awareness, everything pays off. So everything has to be put to par ever so slightly.
And despite the damage, Nilsson gets out ahead of the rest of his pursuers. Nilsson's going to come out ahead of Paul Watkins. He's going to come out ahead of Mark Breland and Naranjan Kumar. So perhaps not a total worst case scenario just yet. Ryan Seltzer about to complete one more lap here. I believe this may be the lap where he comes in. Charles Baccio in second, and Oscar Hardwick is closing up. Whoa, a big moment between him and Tobias Reuter. That's in 3rd place. They're down the straightaway, and Seltzer is pitting. In the green and white Etso Fusion Mighty 4th entry, he's pitting from the lead.
That's right, and that might give the advantage for Oscar Hardwick to close on the leaders. Since Charles hasn't pitted yet, he might pit this lap.
And so we'll see how this all shakes out. Only 2 retirements so far in this race. Still a lot of very competitive entries. We'll see where Ryan Seltzer comes out in relation to Oscar Hardwick. Did stretching out this first stint pay off for him, or will Oscar Hardwick get past him as they come through? Seeing right now, Hardwick making his way through the last chicane. Where is he going to come out?
And
Baccio is staying out one more lap. Baccio staying out one more lap before he makes a stop. He's really stretching out this first tank of fuel.
That's right. In the meanwhile, at 8th position, we got a 5. 8th and 7th position, we got 5 between Anders Nilsson, the 68 car, against Franklin Stegen at the 83 car. They closed their gaps and they're fighting pretty hard on these curves. And Anders wants that gap and that place hard.
And Oscar Hardwick in 2nd place. He did get out ahead of Ryan Seltzer. He got out way ahead of Ryan Seltzer, maintaining about a 3-second margin between the 2 drivers. So the strategy has paid off for Oscar Hardwick. Let's see if it'll pay off for Charles Baccio. He's in the lead right now, but those tires, that first set of tires, he has to be really begging for some more grip. It looks a bit shaky under braking there so far, but holding it together pretty well. I expect him to come in this lap.
That's right. And that will give Oscar eventually the lead. Who knows? Depending on Charles' car, he might not got damaged or anything. So A good pit entry over here is going to play key for Charles, as he got a good advantage over Oscar, but eventually, who knows? It's a game of
Whoa! Well, for 5th place, Anders Nilsson using all the track and then some to try and close up on Franklin Stegging. They're side by side down the straightaway. They're going to go really fast into braking. Who's going to get the position? Stegging is going to hold him off. Gareth Messam in 7th place is closed right into this battle for 5th place. So Stegging ahead of Nilsson, but only just. And Messam has caught this battle up. So he's not out of the picture for a top 5 finish after all.
That's right,
and
Anders Nilsson got the inside.
Stegging. Stegging concedes 5th to Nilsson, and he may concede 6th to Messam as well.
That's right, and one key factor also is that Anders, Franklin, and Gareth are approaching lap cars, so that traffic, and Franklin got a little bit off on the exit, and Gareth makes the move.
Gareth Messam up into 6th place after the early drama sent him way down the order. Charles Baccio has made his stop after 17 laps, so Oscar Hardwick recirculates into the lead of the race with a 10.9 second gap over 2nd place Ryan Seltzer with 18 laps completed.
That's right, and we got Charles Baccio coming out of the pits.
Oh, look at this. The slower car of Thomas Paci is staying out, and they're ahead of this battle for 4th place. Anders Nilsson really under the fire here. Stegging is going to get past Messam. Messam, I believe, down in the 6th place. And Stegging is 5th, and he may try and find his way past Nilsson with some opportunistic overtaking. Thomas Paci, though, running a bit off the pace, so let's see if Nilsson can slide past him. This is the battle. So Nilsson has got past the 3rd. Franklin Stegging has moved into 4th, and Messam is going to get Paci for 6th. So out of that exchange, it is the Hungarian driver Paci who has lost out 3 positions just in 1 corner.
That's right. The reason that Paci might have lost those positions, I don't know if he pitted or not. That sounds like he hasn't pit yet.
Yeah, he has not pitted so far. He may be at the end of he's certainly at the end of his tire life. He may be out of, he's running it very close on fuel. We'll see.
And also, guys, hold the phone. Gareth Messam is making a move on Franklin Stegging, and he does. Gareth now at 4th place in this race, and he's now catching up to Anders Nilsson.
Yeah, there's some lap traffic going into play through all this at one of the most tight sections of the track. So that's really throwing a wrench into all the plans. But it is working out nicely for Gareth Messam and his recovery drive from well down the order. He's now up into 4th place on merit, and he is challenging for a podium place. He's just got to get past Anders Nilsson, and he'll be up into 3rd. But at the moment, Gareth Messam might be the most dynamic driver on the field in terms of making moves. In 4th place and closing in on 3rd place, Anders Nilsson. And Thomas Paci finally makes his stop.
That's right, and now we got a battle going on for 6th place with Paul Joseph, the 29 car, fighting it out with Paul Watkins ahead of him.
It's an intra-team battle between the Mighty Fourth entries. Watkins under the main Mighty Fourth entry, and there's a Mighty Fourth 2, the banner that Joseph has entered under, alongside 2nd place Ryan Seltzer.
That's right, and one thing he got to take notice, though, if he makes any wrong moves, Charles Baccio is right behind him. He rejoined the 9th position, and he hasn't lost any touch to him. So if any one of them makes a wrong move, he's going to reach pretty quickly.
Right, so at the moment, all the leaders have made their mid-race pit stops. Let's run down the order. Oscar Hardwick leads by 11 seconds over 2nd place Ryan Seltzer. 3rd is Anders Nilsson of Smile Power Racing 5th Dimension. Gareth Messam running in 4th place, ahead of Franklin Stegging completing the top 5. Sit through 10, Paul Watkins and Paul Joseph of Mighty Fourth Racing Team. Charles Baccio up into 8th place, ahead of Mike Bell and Narayan Kumar of India, rounding out the top 10. From 11th to 15th, Gabriel Sturr, ahead of Mark Breland in 12th. Tobias Reuter running 13th ahead of Alex DiDomenico Antonio. Davey Vandeveen has recovered nicely. He's up into 15th place. Sergio Mangwal in 16th. Steve Legal 17th. Thomas Pazzi 18th. Bill Krukak in 19th. Moises Navarro rounding out the top 20. We still have most of the cars in the lead lap of this race. And now we're getting to the point of the race where we need to tell you, the viewers, about how you can win Thrustmaster T300 RS Force Feedback Racing Wheel from our sponsors at Thrustmaster. And we have a question, we have a viewer's question to ask. We'll ask one question at all 4 rounds of the championship. And every answer is going to be a letter, and those letters will spell out a different word. So what do you need to do to win the steering wheel? Just collect your 4 answers during the 4 race weekends, and after the last race of the season, send your final answer, the completed 4-letter word, to us at Race Department, to either Bram Hengeveld or Chris Stacy. And our question for this will be the first letter in our 4-letter puzzle. What is the 6th letter of our sponsors at Thrustmaster? Again, this is a fairly easy question. What is the 6th letter of our sponsors, Thrustmaster? So just collect that question at the end of this round. Collect all 4 letters after each round of the championship and send your final answer after the last race to Race Department Administrators Bram Hengeveld and Chris Stacy to enter for your chance to win a Thrustmaster T300 RS steering wheel from Thrustmaster. So we rejoin the action. Oscar Hardwick has not been threatened at any point in this race. He's opened up a gap now of about 11.2 seconds. So he is holding a very comfortable margin, but way behind him, there are some battles for position that are anything but comfortable, Lorenzo.
That's right. One of the battles is probably brewing up is the 3rd place battle between the Fizz Powered Racing 5th Dimension Anders Nilsson and Gareth Massam, as Anders made a small mass before the last hairpin, and now he might have a little bit of gap to Gareth to catch up.
Right, some other interesting battles going on for position. Ranjan Kumar just about a half-second clear over 10th place Mike Bell in a battle for 9th place. As we look further through the order, there's another. We're looking for some more stuff here. But all in all, the racing has been terrific so far in this opening round of the championship. I, for one, have no complaints so far.
Neither do I have complaints for this race. Everything has been clean, smooth, and very, very polite in this race.
Right, only a couple of cars off the lead lap at this point in the race. So everybody holding a very healthy pace in relation to the leaders. And only a couple of retirements so far. So it's been a mostly clean race. There have been some tough battles, but nothing crazy.
Everything very clean. And a possible battle growing up is the number 26 of Tomas Pazzi trying to reach Steve Legal for 17th place, way in the back of the pack.
Right, so this is for some of the lower end position. I do believe all these positions do pay out points, so every championship point you can get counts, especially going on further into the season. So at the moment, there's a battle for 17th place, and it looks like Thomas Pazzi will take advantage of Legal's mistake and move into the position through that long right-hander. But Legal has got to stick with him because he knows he's got a chance to repass him down this straightaway and under braking. And that's what he's going to try and do. The 2 Lemtech racing cars, now 17th and 19th.
That's
but
right.
It looks like Legal is not going to make that move stick quite as hard as he'd like. And while they're battling, they're actually right in front of 2nd place Ryan Seltzer.
That's right, and that could cause some havoc to Ryan if he's not careful with that battle, because Anders, even though he's quite far, one mistake can actually let Anders gain some heavy time and get a little bit of frantic action down the very end of the race.
Right, the gap between Ryan Seltzer and Anders Nilsson about 18 seconds. The gap between Nilsson and Messam is now stretched out to about 5 seconds. So right now it is Messam who's now in the clutches of 5th place Franklin Stegging. And Stegging is closing. Very experienced drivers participate in a lot of race department sanctioned events. He's not going to give up the fight just easy when he knows that a top 5 finish is in the cards and he can get more points out of this race by making one more pass for 4th place.
That's right. And meanwhile, as you said, the difference is not actually huge. It's right about 1 second. So any mistake is going to be nearly fatal, especially in the end of the race.
Whoa! For 8th place, Narajan Kumar locked it up going into one of those slow right-hand corners, and now he's under big pressure from Mike Bell. So this is the battle for 9th place. Bell has been in some interesting tussles, and Mike Bell spins under power. Trying to get it going in reverse, trying to do a power move, but Bell has fallen. He's off the back of Kumar now, and he may lose position. He's fallen to 11th. Gabriel Sturr's gotten past him and into the top 10. What a shame for Bell. This has been great racing so far, but it just went wrong in that one moment.
That's right, and that's the case of the very worn tires in the late race, where one slight touch on the throttle might make a whole lot of difference. And that's a shame also for Bell, because this team is the Constructors champion last season. So being with him on 11th place and Anders on 3rd place might make a lot of difference down the road for the team's championship.
Smile Power Racing, Fifth Dimension, one of the strongest teams in terms of consistent results in this championship, as evidenced by their team's championship last year. They've got a very strong package. We'll see what Mike Bell can do to recover. He may not be out of the woods for a top 10 finish just yet, but that was a very unfortunate mistake. We are about to complete 24 laps here. Oscar Hardwick still in control. About a month ago, we ran a race in Adelaide. You can call it an exhibition, call it whatever you will, but that result's been stricken now. But Oscar Hardwick still in control of this race, improving his skills as the defending champion of the series. He said before the start of the 10th season that he admits he was a bit nervous about if he'd be able to defend his title in such a radically different car from what he drove the previous season. And it looks like, well, he has adapted just perfectly. He's been in control for this entire race, and it looks like with just a handful of laps left to go, he is writing the final sentences of another great victory.
That's right. He basically drove the very perfect race. He didn't do any major mistakes, managed to avoid any carnage down the front. I'm really happy to see him driving as well as he is right now.
Right, no major dramas, no slip-ups. So at the moment, the big battles are going to be for some of the lower-end positions, particularly in that top 10. Gareth Messam in 4th place has just started to open up a bit of a cushion on 5th place Franklin Stegging. He's got about a lap. There's a lap car in between the two of them. Gabriel Sturr is still running in 10th place, but I'd imagine that Mike Bell is going to be closing on him, and he's got to be really frustrated at himself. If I know Mike Bell, he's got to be thinking, how on earth did I let that position slip away as I was battling Narajan Kumar?
That's right. And that's on the skin of every driver. You'd eventually get frustrated. If it was for me, for instance, I would get frustrated. But I got to remember myself that we still got some time in this race. Not a whole lot of time. We don't got 60 minutes. We still have time. Anything can happen.
Right. This is the part of the race where you want to make sure that you're just hitting all of your marks consistently. If you see an opportunity to go for position, go for it. But at this point, it's really not worth throwing away a potential strong finish due to one big mistake later on. Anders Nilsson really using up all the track in third place. He's on pace for a very good finish, as is Gareth Messam in fourth. Brian Seltzer in second place. He's held that position for most of the going, so he is going to get some strong points if it finishes like this. We've completed 25 laps of this one, and I'll tell you what, in terms of excitement, this Race Department Touring Car Championship under the Super V8 regulations has delivered, Lorenzo.
It did, and indeed it has, RJ, because these cars, they are quick. These cars are unpredictable. All races from this race to the last race at Bathurst, they're going to be unpredictable because these cars pack a lot of action. I'll tell you this, I'm very happy with this race. I cannot see what the upcoming races are going to be.
Right, well, in 2 weeks' time, we got the second round for Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, the third round 2 weeks after that in Suzuka Circuit, and the final round of the championship will be held at the historic Mount Panorama Circuit in Bathurst. For 11th place now, Mark Breland has slipstreamed his way past Mike Bell, so that's another position loss for Bell, but Bell is not giving up the fight. He holds the inside line through this long right-hander. They're sliding, they're slipping, they're holding out of the track. Bell is going to keep the position going out of the corner for now. This is for 11th place, but Breland is not giving up the fight just yet.
That's right, and he got the outside and a little bit of slipstream. He might get up front, but we never know what that corner is going to be. That lockup, you know. And Mike Bell holds it on to the 11th place against Mark Breland.
Right, that's a very spirited fight for position, but Bell has got to be thinking, how do I hold off the challenge? They make contact. Breland trying to force his way through. Bell's going to hold the position. He's got to be mindful of where Breland is through this section of the track. Is he thinking he's got to be thinking, I need to be smooth on the throttle coming out of some of these low-speed corners? But my goodness, how do you do that when the nerves are ratcheted up to this level, when you're in a heated battle for position like this? Breland has edged ahead, and I believe he's going to take the position. What's Bell got for him? So at the moment, Mark Breland is going to hold the position, so he's gotten through for 11th place. The laps are really starting to wind down now. But that battle is not going to end anytime soon, although Breland is starting to open up a couple car lengths lead. So it's going to be at this point of the track where Mike Bell needs to start to close in using all the momentum he can. But after just a couple laps on these tires, they're going to start to slide and they're going to start to lose grip. So you've got to hold on at this stage of the race too, because you're going to be on fairly worn tires in the last couple laps.
That's right, and I think one of the reasons why Mark managed to pass Mike Bell in the first place was Mike is actually bobbling around the track. He's wobbly. That are the tires making that job of being worn, throwing you off. You're going to have your car control tighten up. You're going to have to make sure your car is on the track at all times, and eventually you're going to lose places.
Right. We're in the closing laps of this race. 27 laps have been completed now. Gabriel Stur in 10th place has driven a very consistent, very quietly. He's made his way into the top 10. No major mistakes. Great tactical driving for the Spool Engineering driver. Big shout out to Naranjan Kumar. This is a driver who'd been very racy for most of the event. He's up into 9th place now. And just a couple of seconds ahead of him is Charles Baccio in 8th place for Raptor Engineering Epsilon. He's driven a pretty solid race, actually led for about a lap, using some smart pit strategy, and he's parlayed that into a top 10 finish in the works. Paul Joseph, another strong showing in 7th place for Mighty Fourth Racing. And behind and ahead of him is his Mighty Fourth stablemate Paul Watkins in 6th place. Franklin Stegging has driven phenomenally. He's in 5th right now. He's starting to lose the back of Gareth Messam in 4th place. But Messam, we can't say this enough, had a very good recovery drive. He kind of got out of shape in the early laps, fell down the order, but he's recovered nicely, made some very brave and bold passes to work his way up into 4th place. It looks like he's going to hold unless he can catch third place Anders Nilsson. A podium place may not be out of the running just yet, but there's about a gap of 3.4 seconds between the two. And Nilsson is going to have to be mindful of that. Ryan Seltzer in second place right now. And they've all been chasing the number one car, Magenta World Racing Team's Oscar Hardwick, completing his 28th lap, as he knows that the final laps are within sight for him and his first victory of Season 10 of the Race Department Touring Car Championship.
That's right, and Oscar is going to have a lot of momentum coming up to the Montreal race, where Montreal is not actually a very huge track to pass. There are not many positions in that track you can actually make a move, so being first makes a whole lot of difference, especially in the round 2.
Right. Well, it's definitely got some street course characteristics. In a way, it feels like a track that the V8 supercars would be right at home at, even a continent away. Just checking in on some battles, and there's something brewing for 7th place. Paul Joseph holds the position, but Charles Baccio has visibly closed that gap up to within a second. More than 6/10 of a second now. Does Charles Baccio have enough in him to make a move for 7th place in the final laps?
That's right, and now he got the slipstream. Joseph's tires must have worn out, and especially Charles. He made that leg pit, so he got pressure tires. He's gonna make that.
Now
move
he's
really
got the
soon.
inside line. He's got the inside line, and he's going to be poking under Paul Joseph. He's got to try and stay with him to stay in that slipstream and make the move stick down this back straightaway. So while he hasn't gotten ahead just yet, he can certainly get into the toe of Joseph's car and make the move for 7th.
That's right, and now he's got the line, he's got the slipstream, he's got the move. Let's see if it pays off. And it does.
Oh goodness, it's a really tough fight. Davey Van de Veen has now worked his way into 14th place, passing Albert de Dominic Antonio. That's another good recovery drive, because we saw him down there in last place in the early laps of the going. Now Van de Veen has clawed his way well into within the top 15.
That's right. If I was watching him earlier at the race, at the very beginning, he was struggling with the grip. He was trying to get the hold of the car, because the cold tires play a hell of a factor in this race. So, major props to him. By the way, Charles Baccio just made the movement to 7th place.
Right, that's another position. He's the lead Raptor engineering driver in this race. And a great showing, particularly later on. Ran it long in the first stint of the race, and it may have paid off for him and gotten one more crucial position in that championship. Paul Watkins in 6th place is starting to close in on 5th place Franklin Stegging. We'll see if they've got enough time. It's within a second now. Stegging has got to be careful. This is for the final spot in the top 5. We could see a battle for that position underway in just a couple seconds.
That's right, and now those drivers are going to have to be very careful, because we are near the end of the race, if not at the end of the race. So any wrong move now is going to be fatal.
Surely indeed. Franklin Stegging holding his line in 5th place. Paul Watkins trying to close. I don't know if he's close enough to get a really good toe on him down this straightaway. He is closing, though. He's closing rapidly. He looks to the outside. Is he going to get the move done at a braking? No, not quite close enough just yet. As we see, Oscar Hardwick has now completed 30 laps. And we should see the white flag being displayed anytime soon. So the battles are just starting to get intense as we get to the final laps of this race. We've completed 30. And we'll see if any of these drivers have one more push in them Battle for fifth still ongoing between Stegging and Watkins. They're still within a second.
And Charles Baccio is closing really quickly on those drivers.
Right, Charles Baccio, he's found some second wind. And if either one of those drivers ahead of him make a mistake, Charles Baccio could be in line for a top 5 finish. This is a great drive for the Frenchman in the later stages of this one.
That's right. And I was talking to Charles Baccio earlier this race, as he's my former teammate. He said he was very focused on this race. He wasn't aware of how this race was going to pan out, and he was going to try to do his best to try to make it the best place in this track.
Well, at the moment, Charles Baccio is putting on a really strong showing in 7th place, and he may be seeing the cars up. Looks like, yeah, he's right on the back bumper of Paul Watkins in 6th place, and he's going to get a tow. We're coming into the final lap. Final lap has been shown now. Oscar Hardwick just has one more corner to complete.
And RJ, Charles Baccio just moved into 6th place, and now he's on the back of Franklin Stegging.
Wow, what a move as the checkered flag flies. Oscar Hardwick takes the opening round of the season at Buenos Aires. A win for the defending champion in his title defense. Ryan Seltzer is going to come home in 2nd. We'll keep an eye on that battle for 5th place. Anders Nilsson rounding the final corner. A great drive for the Swede. He comes around to complete the race. He's got a 3rd place finish and a podium finish in the bag. Gareth Messam completing his recovery drive. He's going to come home in 4th place. And it's going to come down to the final corner for 5th place. Franklin Stegging just holding off Charles Baccio. Is Baccio have one more move on it before the start-finish line? No, he doesn't get it. Stegging takes 5th ahead of Baccio and Watkins, with Paul Joseph in 8th. Raji Kumar in 9th. Gabriel Sturr is going to round out the top 10. That was very, very close for the final spot in the top 5. In the end, Franklin Stegging holding off Charles Baccio to take 5th place.
That's right, and I think what paid off that 5th place for Franklin is the fact that he braked really, really smooth and late at the curve. He braked early and left no room whatsoever for Charles Baccio to make the move. Very, very aware driving from Franklin, and nice 5th place for him.
Right, that was some impressive stuff at the end of the race. And your winner of the first round of the Race Department Touring Car Championship season number 10, starting off right where he left off, is Oscar Hardwick, the Welshman, with a textbook drive to take the victory in 1 hour, 24 seconds, ahead of Ryan Seltzer in 2nd place, Anders Nilsson in 3rd, Gareth Messam in 4th, and Franklin Stegging completing the top 5 in dramatic fashion ahead of Charles Baccio, Paul Watkins 7th, Paul Joseph in 8th, Naranjan Kumar 9th, and Gabriel Sturr completing the top 10. From 11 to 20, Mike Bell, Tobias Reuner in 12th. It's been a great showing so far. That was a very fascinating race. And of course, if you want to watch more races like that, you can follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/RaceDepartment. Follow us for all future events, not just the Race Department Touring Car Championship, but other Race Department League and club events. We've been streaming some Automobilista multiplayer as the game has launched recently. It's been a fun time.
Really, really fun time. Loving that game.
And thanks to everybody at Raise the Studios for their tireless work to make Stock Car at Stream and Automobilista over the years. And now we're going to speak to our winner of the race, the winner of the opening round of the championship for Magenta World Racing Team, Oscar Hardwick. Oscar, it's been certainly an interesting road to this point, but you have decisively taken victory in the opening round of the championship, now twice in the Race Department Touring Car Championship season number 10. That was a great drive. That was all about It's all about your strategy in the opening stint of the race.
The opening stint of the race, I basically was decided get a good start because the pole position was a big surprise after the practice. I just hadn't been quite on the pace, so get a good start, which I absolutely did. I think I had a second by turn 3 or something, and then it was a case of match my pace to the pace of the guys behind. And I did that for most of the first stint, and then credit to Anders Nilsson, who put in some unbelievably quick lap times as the tyres started going off, and it really pressured me into pushing on a bit again. And you can see in the last few laps of the first stint, I was quite sideways, and that's because he's pressuring me into doing so. But the second stint after that, I just made an absolutely bob-on pit stop with the tricky pit entry, and yeah, there was a gap there. I think Seltzer as well completely backed off in the second stint. He didn't go for the gap in either direction and just let second sit. That's how I drove it. It was nice to be able to win again after the pre-qualifying race at Adelaide, and such a big break in between, and a credit to the organisers for filling up the grid again with such a big gap and tricky circumstances.
That's right. And Oscar, let me ask you a question. Nice win,
User
first
joined
of all.
your channel.
Very good race. You drove very smoothly from my perspective. What I want to ask you is, for second race, what do you think the strategy will be? As Montreal is a street circuit, not a lot of space not a lot of space to move around, make some passes. What do you think is the strategy for you over there?
I think tyres won't wear as much, so there's potentially the ability to take 2 tyres if you're wearing a certain side or the front or rear more than the other, and that could, gain you a lot of time in the pit stop. But I honestly suspect with the 60-minute format and the soft tyre being as quick as it is, add to that, it's quite an open throttle circuit, so it's going to be quite a fuel guzzler, the same as today, whereas at Adelaide I think you could have done without taking a fuel stop. So very similar strategy. I mean, credit to all the guys who, we've all had this break, but there was a number of people that came back today and they brought their absolute A game. Phil Rose, who absolutely didn't give me a whisker in qualifying, and then you've got Mr. Seltzer, who can put in lap times like you wouldn't believe. So a lot of pressure, a lot of competition towards that front end, and it's good to have won it again, and won Adelaide, won this one, and having come off of season 9 and there being a little bit of expectation there, it's nice to be doing my best to live up to it at the moment.
Well, Oscar, you're certainly up to just a great job in your first race of the season. Good luck going forward. Oscar Hardwick, the winner in Buenos Aires, and now we get a chance to talk to the second place man for the Mighty Fourth Racing Team, Ryan Seltzer. Ryan, second place, a strong effort in your first race of the season. Certainly some big points on the board too.
Thank you. We're pretty happy about it.
All right, just take us through some of that race as well.
Well, I gotta say, I was pretty happy from the start to start right at the top of the grid, a little bit behind, the other 2 guys, and they were consistent and fast. So the key was, the hope and the plan was just to kind of grind away and put in consistent laps and see if we had any luck, and I'm quite happy with the result.
That's right. And Ryan, as I asked to Oscar, great race, very nice spot for you. Next race is going to be a street race where there are not a lot of places to make moves. What do you think is the strategy going to a race where every corner actually makes a difference?
Well, it's definitely true that at Montreal, we're not going to have that same room for error that you had here. Here, if you went off track, you might have survived. In Montreal, good luck with that. So I think it's going to be, qualify as fast as possible, and then from there, take it just a little easy and, try to see what we can do to put pressure on those in front of us and let them make the mistakes.
Right. Well, Ryan, that was a very spirited drive, a good second place result, still in a very strong championship position going forward. Ryan Seltzer of the Mighty Fourth Racing, second in Buenos Aires. Just wrapping up today's
user left your channel.
Just as we start to wind down today's broadcast, we'll see if we have any more interviews to get to. And of course, just to touch on our question for the Thrustmaster T300 RS racing wheel, what is the 6th letter of title sponsor Thrustmaster? Again, 6th letter of the title sponsor Thrustmaster. You can collect that answer and all 4 answers over the 4 race weekends and send your final answer after the last race to Race Department Chris Stacy and Bram Hangeveld for your chance to win a Thrustmaster T300 RS racing wheel. Lorenzo, just to wrap up, your thoughts on just give us your thoughts on this race overall as a whole. This was a fine race.
Indeed, as you said, RJ, indeed a fine race. Outstanding driver skill from all drivers around. Action-packed from the start to finish, especially that finish, man. That finish was amazing, I gotta tell you. And I'm really excited what's going to happen around Montreal. I had the opportunity to drive around those laps, not only in free testing, but in the club. It's a fantastic track, but it is just as hard as this track in Buenos Aires. This will not leave you resting. Believe me not.
Right, Montreal, very historic circuit and one that tends to lead itself to carnage. But one track, if you can master it, could go a long way to ensuring yourself championship glory in this season of the championship. And that second round from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve will be coming on March 19th. At the same time, 1830 GMT, that's 2:30 p.m. Eastern time in the United States. So be on the lookout for that. The third round will be at Suzuka Circuit in April. And then the final round in Mount Panorama Circuit, that will be on April 16th. We have a 4-round championship, and it should be a nail-biter and a firecracker from start to finish. Special thanks go out to Reza Studios of Stock Car Stream and Automobilista, to league sponsor Thrustmaster, to our broadcast director and administrator Bram Hangeveld, race series organizer Chris Stacy, to my broadcast partner Lorenzo Bonder. I'm RJ O'Connell, saying so long from Buenos Aires in the opening round of the Race Department Touring Car Championship, where Oscar Hardwick secures victory in the first race of his title defense.